There's a great question that we just had up. Why doesn't anyone discuss what Russia and China's response would be after the American president, whoever that is, announces the US has crashed UAP and probably reverse engineered it? What do you think, Ash? If there was to be a presidential disclosure tomorrow, how do you think Russia and China and possibly other countries would respond to that?
Well, the reality is, for all of the criticism of America, and I criticize American foreign policy, but I love America and I love Americans. And I do think America is a very close model to like this really good, perfect to some utopia. I mean, the freedoms in societies and the opportunities, again, there's a lot of challenges in America and the injustices. I know that, but I think America is a more transparent place. Like I think you heard all the politicians who were like, well, you know what, there's a African-American gentleman. Again, I took a lot of notes, but I didn't take every name. He was like, us keeping the lid on this is not the American way. And I was nodding along, going relative to like where I was born in Iran. And because the doc touches on Russia and China. So I think if America came out and issued a statement, or imagine if Trump like summarized the whole doc, just saying there has been videos, there have been military people, whether I believe it or not, I'll believe it when I see it. Like he's not he's intelligent, but he's not serious like that. He cracks jokes, he's got his style. I don't think Russia and China would come out and disclose it because, for one, media in China is very different. It's China's a fascinating paradox in of itself. It's not North Korea at all. But what I'm saying is, it's not like their version of CNN or Fox or New York Times will have the permission or authority and freedom to just write about it, whatever. So I think the leadership of China may not necessarily have any like incentive or need to address it. And I'll get to the why. And Russia is a little bit the same way, but Russia's a bit different because it is involved right now in a kinetic conflict with Ukraine. And it does need to project a different kind of like ambiguity, because China tomorrow, I mean, there's the Taiwan thing, I get that, but China tomorrow, the odds of them going nuclear, like not they are nuclear, but like let's say like going nuclear and like striking somebody is
launching nukes.
Yeah, they're going to be a bit more restrained. Whereas like, Putin is actually a very intelligent person, obviously, but Russia's involved in something and that could spill over with NATO, ergo then America gets it. So I think Russia will want ambiguity. And the reason why I think that's really critical and not critical, the reason why I think that is a pretty realistic scenario is what the documentary explained with, there have been probably these physical objects, the UAPs, that have also probably been dropped in China and Russia. And one of the gentlemen was like, maybe the aliens wanted to leave this there. And, it was fascinating. But so I do think, though, that if you follow that logic, that if some of these objects ended up, now the why up for speculation, but I think if some of these objects did land in America and all these credible overall, like as a collective, one person could lie, but it's hard. All of these things are all made up. Then why would there not also be similar incidences in Russia and China, right? So I do believe that, this is not contained to America. I have a ton of questions, just to be clear. I'm also not like 100%. I wasn't nodding with everything. As theories, I was like, okay, plausible, unlikely, probable, improbable, But I do think that China and Russia would probably prefer to let the world think that they have reversed engineer as much as America has, maybe even more, but without really saying anything because their media is different at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think most people agree that this is a global phenomenon and not central to the United States. There's probably many more countries, even besides Russia and China, that have worked on reverse engineering or recovered craft. Or who knows? I mean, it's not. We focus this conversation often within the parameters of the United States just due to our location, but I'm sure it's very far-reaching, and it brings up the point of kind of the main narrative of the film, which was one of mitigating potential threat. And Darcy, I'll start with you on this because we kind of spoke about it in the podcast that is going to be released Friday, the Unveiled podcast that will be released Friday. What do you think about the narrative that was promoted in this film regarding potential threats? As much from the UAP that are like legitimately of unknown origin, as well as ones that could potentially be originating from different countries, the sort of arms race between the global powers to harness this technology. What's your take on that?
Sure. So just before I answer that, I will cascade into answering that, but I just want to address B.A. Touche's question or statement before. I don't trust government, so it's hard to trust what people say in this film. I think you might be confusing things there, because the people that are addressing this issue in the film are saying they don't trust the government. They don't trust the military and intelligence community that has kept access to this information from the public. So these people in the documentary are saying, we have been exposed to the reality of UAP, UFOs, non-human intelligence possibly being here. We want that to be public. And that's the whole purpose of the documentary. They want to break out the secrecy and change the way things are going with the government. Because right now, yes, there is a lot of distrust with the government. I'd say, post-World War II, the government's favor is at an all-time low, right? Back in the day after World War II, the government might say, jump, and most of the populace would say how high. But nowadays, internationally, governments are not trusted. And we live in the age of information. And part of that information is disinformation. The government can be part of that disinformation, or they can be part of the proper science and exploration information age that we're trying to get to, right? AI has the ability to exacerbate the disinformation side, because disinformers will use that tool to accelerate their disinformation campaigns, marketing online. And then the informers that are trying to be, the tip of the spear of bringing truth, they can also use AI and fight that sort of online discourse. So I just wanted to address that. I understand. I don't trust the government either. I think that's why, part of my documentary filmmaking has been addressing secrecy and that there is something going on with this phenomenon. Do I know exactly what it is? No. Most of the time, a cult leader is going to say exactly what they think it is and to follow them. And I would be wary of people that are saying they know exactly what this is. And, give your credit card information now. Mm-hmm. So then to your other question about Russia, China, is this a thing that they should be involved with? They have been. If you've kind of kept your ears open in the last few months, George Knapp, he was in the Capitol of the United States at a congressional hearing, among other whistleblowers, and he testified to the fact that when the Iron Curtain came down in the 90s, Soviet Union was crumbling. There was a bit of a expansion out to the West in terms of welcomeness. And George Knapp, as a journalist, typical run in the beat news journalist, was like, this is amazing. I'm going to travel to Russia now, and I want to interview people about UFOs, because he was one of these guys that's been covering the UFO beat for a long time. Seriously, trying to find facts and real sources and stuff. When he went to Russia, he interviewed generals, intelligence people, KGB, all of these different sources that are engaging with the secrecy around UAP and UFOs. And they told a lot of the history on that to him, and they gave him source files, like real government investigation files, which he came back to the United States with. So that was a big thing. And at the congressional hearing, he was saying, like, the Russians had their own crash craft retrieval program. They were trying to shoot them down too. They were trying to reverse engineer them, just like allegedly the Americans have been doing with, the S4 Tonopah test range, Area 51 stories. And, they seem to be on the same track. I don't think China would try to skip that, frontier of investigation and research as well, because we're talking about technology here. And right now we are amidst a global artificial intelligence race. Why wouldn't there also be a reverse engineering of exotic energies race behind the scenes? Because, as you may note, energy is going to be the most expensive thing in the future to run all of these AI systems, server farms that expand for miles to have the most powerful AI. And militaries and governments will want that to be in their arsenal. So why wouldn't you go off of traditional fossil fuels and the energies that have been allowed to be operated in the public? Because in this documentary, they address the sort of like energy embargo idea, which is the idea that if there were an exotic energy, something that you could kind of allude to being 0 point or free energy device, well, the powers that be would not want that public. The FBI would intercept it, the CIA, whoever in the police force of a country would intercept that, because there's an economy backbone being run in a lot of different countries on fossil fuels. Even if it's wind and solar, there has to be a setup to that income stream and to manpower and economic growth. You don't want to disturb that by introducing something that's a total disruptor, a total game changer. And that could be something that they find on a crashed alien craft. Let's face it, it could be. So I think Russia would be taking part in those exploits for sure. I think China would be remiss not to. And I think the United States has been. I can't prove it for sure, but I have seen CIA papers where this you can prove, and I can share that with people if they ever want it. I have this PDF copy of the CIA saying that they would intercept in the 70s companies that made innovation in solar panel tech that was more than 20% efficient. And the whole reason is that they didn't want to disrupt the fossil fuel industry.